Hey guys, what's up? Dax here. Today we are here to review the third episode of Top Gear in this brand new series, Series 23. And once again, thank you guys for the support last week. Hopefully we can include more sort of content in this video as well, give my opinions more as well. So thanks again for the support. Obviously a like on the video is always appreciated, because these sort of videos will inevitably get more dislikes through people obviously finding the video and just disliking it because they dislike my opinion. But I really appreciate you guys coming in each video, each day, and leaving your support. So that's amazing once again. So first off, the first part of this new episode was an Audi R8 test. In my opinion, it wasn't exactly, incredible. Obviously the camera shots and everything, I'm going to keep mentioning it in the series because I really do love them. But it is well edited and well filmed. But to be perfectly honest, it wasn't one of the better things that Chris Evans has done so far in this series. I mean, he's done a few cool bits, but this one, in my opinion at least, it wasn't exactly amazing. Now, Audi R8 is always a car I've always loved, so watching this review, I don't particularly like the brand new car, to be perfectly honest. I don't like it as much as the old one, but that's just personal opinion. But in my opinion, this test just didn't quite get it right for some reason. I don't know whether it was maybe rushed or something, because it just didn't feel quite like a Top Gear segment. And they sort of rushed that first bit, and then they sort of jumped over to America, to Laguna Seca, so that Sabine Schmidt could sort of do a lap around Laguna Seca and make Chris Evans sick, which I guess is going to be a gimmick of the whole sort of series now, is Chris Evans being sick because he's not a good passenger. So I can assume that sort of thing is going to be seen a lot throughout the series, obviously. So at the end of the day, I suppose it adds a few laughs in there, but it's going to be quite repetitive if it happens every single episode that Chris Evans gets sick and, has to like roll out of a car. But yeah, it is what it is. Maybe it's the running gag for the series, but overall that Audi R8 segment just didn't quite get it perfect for me. I mean, I can't really mention anything too amazing from it, but I can't really mention anything too great from it. So I guess really that's why, just sort of middle ground for me. It wasn't exactly the best thing I've seen on Top Gear over the years. But then we move on to Chris Harris in his first segment in the main show, which was the Ferrari F12 and F12 Tour de France. Going back, looking at some of the history of the old Tour de France Ferrari, and I've got to say it was a really nice little segment there to look back at the old cars. So that's something I've always liked about Top Gear, is seeing some of these classic cars that we don't get to see nowadays. They've obviously got the budget behind them to go and sort out these cars and pay the owner to get it on the show. So that's what I like to see about Top Gear. Sometimes, just flashy new cars every single episode, it doesn't really interest me as much, because, we get to see that every week. We can see loads of reviews on YouTube way before they're on Top Gear of these flashy new cars, because obviously they're readily available in comparison to these old cars. So seeing the old car, the old Tour de France, absolutely awesome. Seeing him driving around some sort of twisty roads, it was really cool, and something hopefully they can do more of in the future, because I think that's obviously one of the better parts about the series. Obviously looking back at some different cars, they did it the last episode as well, which I really enjoyed. So that was cool. But I actually have seen Chris Harris do much better reviews on YouTube, so maybe he's just sort of slightly adapting to the new style on Top Gear, because obviously on Top Gear they've got a much bigger budget, they've got so much more things they can do with the footage, and they've got so much more they can say. And this first obviously segment in the main show, he's done a lot of good stuff on Extra Gear, which I've been watching and I will try and talk about later in the video. But in my opinion, he's still got some way that he can still improve, which says a lot, because that segment was still okay. And Chris Harris, definitely one of my favourite people on the show. I mean, he just knows cars, he loves cars, and it just speaks perfectly to the camera each time, and we all understand what he's saying so much better, maybe sometimes, than Chris Evans. So it is what it is. So in my opinion, it was a cool segment. Hopefully they do more like that in the future, seeing going back and looking at the old cars. But at the end of the day, he probably can do better, but that's obviously a good thing, considering how good that segment actually was. So then it was the Stars and the Racing Price Cars, or whatever they call it now. I didn't watch that. I mean, I was watching it with my family, so no one really likes that bit, so I was like, yeah, let's just skip it. So Anthony Joshua and a comedian or whatever was on it. Anthony Joshua was obviously cool, but I don't really care about the other guy. Kevin Hart, is it? I don't really know what he does. So that was out of the way, and then Roy Reid got his first chance on the show, and in my opinion, this was actually the best part of the show. I don't know whether some may disagree, some might like the last segment a little bit more, but in my opinion, I liked this segment the most out of everything. It was sort of testing 3 hot hatchbacks, starting off with the Ford Focus, new Ford Focus RS. Lovely shots around Wales. They did a bit of that in extra gear as well, showing you sort of the behind the scenes of that part. That was really good, so I definitely recommend you go and watch Extra Gear if you haven't watched that. It's really cool to see the behind the scenes. The Focus obviously turns out to be a really good car. They also have a look at the Civic, which just seems to be a bit lacking in the essentials of modern day driving. Obviously in a hot hatch, front wheel drive when you're paying 30 grand, I'd say no thank you. And they also talk about the Mercedes AMG 45, which is obviously the quickest car, or it has the most horsepower, but it is the most expensive by £10,000. I think what you could spend for £10,000, and at the end of the day, the Focus is still a better car. So Rory did a really good job of sort of relaying his thoughts and real opinions on these cars. Even though they're not like the most expensive cars in the world, it's probably cars that more likely the viewer can buy or have as an inspirational goal. So I really liked that. The shots and everything were amazing. The way that he conducted himself throughout that whole sort of, just sort of segment was really good in my opinion, and he did really show the good differences between the cars, and really show to us how the Civic and the Focus and the Mercedes are all slightly different in their own individual ways, and why he would get the Focus but some may prefer the Mercedes, and obviously some may prefer the Civic. Really good review in my opinion. And the last segment, which was the Mustang with Ken Block in London. It was all set up as LeBlanc trying to be on like a sightseeing tour of London, obviously, after, I guess, moving to the UK recently, or I don't know where he actually lives, but obviously coming to the UK to sort of present Top Gear, and he wanted to just see London, and it ended up just being this massive drift fest around London. It was okay in my opinion. It was quite really cool to see the car, doing what it did. It was absolutely insane. They obviously had to shut off a lot of roads and everything to get that sort of exclusivity on the roads, and it was really cool to see. But I don't know, something, it just lacked a little bit for me somewhere. Like, there wasn't like this audacious stunt or something, or this challenge that they had to do. It was just sort of drifting for 10 minutes. And don't get me wrong, that is really cool still, but I would have liked to see like a tiny bit more maybe from that. Maybe just because we have high expectations of Top Gear, and what he's done in the past is sort of take it to the next level. And this segment, in my opinion, it was really good, but it didn't quite take it to the next level with like a little challenge, or a little even more daring segment, or a little crazy stunt or whatever. It didn't quite have that, even though there were some cool stuff happening. But in general, it was good. Definitely go and watch Extra Gear. I did say I was going to talk about it. It had some really good extra little points in there, just sort of going behind the scenes of Top Gear. Definitely worth having a look in my opinion, guys. I think it's not that long, so it's definitely worth just going and checking out. So yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, it's Black Smart here. Goodbye.